Now to the other listed consumer group, the CAC. It is in fact a department of the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. Some see this as a conflict of interest.
Maybe in most cases it wouldn't be an issue, normal issues that arise day to day, but in this case it is a conflict. Because any consumer group of any kind is looking out for the interest of consumers. The Consumer Affairs Commission did vote for the standard in the first round, in the proper vote. And then they changed their vote, right? But then they report to the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, right? So how can that be?
What would be the reason for changing your vote? How does a vote against this standard help consumers? And what really is the mandate of the Consumer Affairs Commission?
When we contacted head of the CAC, Dulce Allen, she declined our request for an interview. She directed us to the Ministry of Industry and subsequently sent us a statement saying,
"The Commission supports front-of-package labeling on pre-packaged foods. The CAC voted for consideration to be given to other modules in addition to the Chilean octagon model presented in the draft standard. Using Cross-Q's voting guidelines, the Commission voted not to support the standard in its current form with a view to include all other modules for equal consideration."
We sent a list of questions including whether there was any influence or pressure from the Ministry of Industry to change position, but the statement didn't address that. Dr. Norman Dunn, State Minister in the Industry Ministry, maintains his ministry applied no pressure.
Absolutely not. The Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce is an enabler. We enable business activities, commercial activities, commerce generally. So we take the views of all into consideration, but we are not influenced by anyone.
I have heard the concerns raised, and I'm not at liberty to discuss, and I don't think it would be appropriate to discuss some of the conversations I've had with my colleague minister and on this particular matter, or even internally. But those concerns are noted and have been raised. Again, the cabinet has taken a decision as to the way forward, and we respect that decision. I'm a part of that decision as part of the collective.
But stakeholders remain concerned.
Definitely there's a conflict of interest, as has been shown now. Maybe it has not reared its head before in this particular instance. So certainly going forward, some consideration should be given into how the Consumer Affairs Commission is aligned, given what has happened here, and then the potential for it affecting other situations like this in the future.
No, to the heart of the dispute. Manufacturers insist they are not against the Chilean high-end model.
What we are against is the use of one form of FOPL, or front of packaging labeling, that is not in line with that of our major trading partners. And what that would mean is that Jamaican products would have a label that is not in compliance with products that are going into our major trading partner.
They wanted this to be the only option to be reviewed by Cross-Q in implementation in the region. Only option. And the position of the manufacturers community was that, and the trading community in general, not manufacturers, was that no, other options need to be included, including the options that are being used by our major trading partner. The model that was being pushed is not used in the US, the UK, Canada, Europe. It's not used in any of those countries. It's used in 7 countries, mainly in Latin and Central America.
But is that an unreasonable request?
Yes, it's unreasonable. None of their trading partners have a uniform label. And Mexico, which is the 3rd largest trading partner with the US, have the black octagon. I would never class Jamaica as being one of the largest trading partners with the US. And Mexico are. It's just when it suits. Yes, they want the front of pack label, but not the most effective one. Not the one that our public will understand best. The one that will confuse them the most.
Local manufacturers also argue the model would affect their competitiveness with imported products.
You have to manage the whole system. Otherwise, you can create a real imbalance between your local manufacturers and put them in a non-competitive situation versus your imports. And all we're saying at this stage is that the models that you're going to put in place have to be consistent and pragmatic and enforceable. Otherwise, you're going to create a situation where Your local manufacturers in the region, it's a Caribbean, this is not a Jamaican thing, it's across a Caribbean, CARICOM. Your local CARICOM manufacturers are going to be held to one standard because we're here, we're easy to do. And we are telling you that the imports are not going to be held to the same standards. And all you have to do is go on the road and go on the street and see what's happening. There are packages in downtown Kingston right now that don't even have English on it.
So products coming in, we would have to make sure that everyone is stickered in the right and an accurate way. And I'm saying that is where this model falls down in terms of its cost to implement and the ability for the country to actually police such a model effectively. So what you would do is you would effectively force local manufacturers who are easy to police to do it, because it would be the law, and all the imports, which is a very large portion of what is in our supermarkets, would be able to circumvent.
It's sad that he looks at it that way, because what should be happening is that the Bureau of Standards, the Scientific Research Council ought to be testing all products that are coming into the market, whether produced locally or whether imported, so that our population has safe products.
Manufacturers also have a third concern.
The levels behind it are much too stringent. It would put the majority of products in our supermarkets would have these labels. People would have to reformulate. There's a cost to that. It will take time. Granted, it would be good, but it will take time. So we are saying allow for other models to be used. Why not? If most of the world are using other models, why not use them? Even allow for a choice.
When we do surveys of our consumers, they tell you what they want. They tell you, yes, they would choose that if they have it. Why doesn't the industry reformulate and offer our consumers more healthy choices? Remember, if your product is not high in these nutrients, you won't need a warning label on it.
But the JMEA's arguments found favor with the Ministry of Industry. Portfolio Minister Audley Shaw wrote in August and twice again in September in support of the industry position.
The official position of the Jamaican government is that the other FOPL models must be included along with the high-in octagonal model in the CARICOM standard. It is recognized that this position is a point of difference among advocates for health, but we maintain that this is the most logical position in the interest of balancing trade, public health, and industry.
But the Ministry of Health supports the use of the Chilean model. The health minister said in a July 4 Gleaner article, the warning label being put forward by the CARICOM community as part of the response to the Caribbean NCD crisis is not an alien concept addressing a foreign concern, as is being suggested. Rather, it is contextual and relevant, and to refuse its introduction is to be insensitive to the plight of the Jamaican people. But as a reminder, this is what Dr. Dunn said is the position of the Industry Ministry and by extension, the government.
What we're saying is that Jamaica at this time, and I use the word at this time, would not be in a position to support a single model, even though you mentioned that a study was done, because there are other implications. There are implications with our trading partners.
But the issue of front of package labeling is in and of itself a health matter. Studies showing prepackaged and ultra-processed foods being directly linked to non-communicable diseases like hypertension and diabetes are health studies. This is the leading cause of death in Jamaica. Again, a health issue. And so, stakeholders are perplexed as to why the Industry Ministry appears to be front and center of what is at its core a health matter.
The Ministry of Health and Wellness must be allowed to carry out their mandate. And this particular matter is a health issue. And so, but the Ministry of Industry and Commerce seem to be usurping that role. And I think that sets a dangerous precedent. So what other health issues in the future are we going to have other ministries taking over the role of the Ministry of Health and Wellness in the final analysis? I don't think that is a prudent way to go.
So, is the Industry Ministry overstepping?
Absolutely not. Absolutely. I mean, the ministries, both the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, like all other ministries, work together on these issues. But ultimately, and this is what you need to understand, ultimately, the decision rests with the cabinet of Jamaica.
NCDs are the #1 killer in the Caribbean and Latin America. This regional move toward a uniform food labeling system is one attempt to help Caribbean consumers make healthier food choices. Jamaica has submitted its vote against the model to the regional standards body, CROSQ.
The multiple models at this time, we believe, is more appropriate than a single model. A single model may become very applicable in the future, and we're not ruling out everything.
What Cabinet has decided on is that we should not accept one prescribed approach. We should explore what is the most the best approach that may suit us. And what it could mean is that we will still sit down and discuss that same model, but we will discuss other possible models as well. And so the next phase of the conversation is going to be for the ministries and the respective stakeholders to still have a dialogue.
But the Hart Foundation and other stakeholders are still pushing for Jamaica to reverse its position.
We're going to continue to work through education, public education, through raising of awareness of the situation, to see if we can get to where we want to get in terms of front of package labeling. There's no reason we shouldn't have it here in Jamaica. Our population deserves it, and I think that we should.
But industry players are adamant.
The way this thing is being positioned is almost like a silver bullet. I think it's a number of pillars that you have to look at. You have to look at the affordability pillar. We have to be able to make our food more affordable for our population, because Jamaicans should be eating healthier. Our biggest issue is that how are you going to make sure that I am the one doing it, but the imports coming in are being held and just not being enforced? You're putting me in an uncompetitive situation from the get-go on something that is meant to be to do well for the country, but you have the unintended consequence of making me uncompetitive because you don't have the resources to enforce. So I mean, maybe we need to get from here to here. And where my friends, I want to go from here in one step, we're saying, let's go along the chain. Let's go from here to here, and get to where we want to go.
You can't say, well, let's not do this measure because there's so much else to be done. We have to start somewhere, and we have to start with specific items. It is not a silver bullet, and we never presented it as such. It is one of a series of measures that needs to be taken in order to improve the diet and the dietary choices of the Jamaican public. When we do surveys of our consumers, they tell you what they want. They tell you, yes, they would choose that if they have it. Why doesn't the industry reformulate and offer our consumers more healthy choices? Remember, if your product is not high in these nutrients, you won't need a warning label on it.
Going forward, the Hart Foundation and the NGOs must be given what we have asked for, and the government must bend backward. The consumers have the right to information and the right to choose, and we have the right to a healthy lifestyle, a right to health.
So that case can be made. Again, the cabinet decision didn't deny the possibility of that, or the need to do that. The question is, how is that done? And that's where I think further deliberations are going to be required between the ministries, but also with stakeholders.
Giovanni Dennis for Television Jamaica.